Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Nicole Amato. I'm the Games Outreach Lead at Kickstarter, and I'm going to be presenting the Games Masterclass. Please forgive me if I stumble over everything. I'm doing this alone. We had some technical difficulties when we ran the original recording, so it's just going to be me doing everything. Welcome to our Games Masterclass. It's been a really exciting year in the games category so far on Kickstarter, with creators old and new finding success on the platform. We have a new head of games, Maggie Clayton, who just started. Sadly, she could not join us today as she's at San Diego Comic-Con, but I'm here. And I will be leaving in a few days to join Maggie at Gen Con, so it's a very busy time. I'm going to take you through what's happening in games and how to run your own successful games campaign. I'm really thrilled to welcome you here. I'm really sad that Kay Symington isn't here to do this with me. She was here for the actual class yesterday, and I want to take a moment to say that she has been absolutely incredible. She has run these classes. She's also done our open calls, and she's just absolutely one of the most amazing people I've ever met, and I'm going to miss her very much because this is her last masterclass. So just give me a second. I'm going to set up my presentation, share my wonderful screen with you. Awesome. Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Kickstarter 101 Games Edition. I'll be your speaker. My name is Nicole Amato, and I'm currently the Games Outreach Lead at Kickstarter. I started the games industry in 2009 as a video game journalist, then moved on to do narrative design and editing. In 2013, I made my first tabletop game, Resistor, which I launched on Kickstarter in 2015. I went on to publish 3 more games, with an additional one on Kickstarter right now called Boom Patrol, published by Smirk and Dagger Games. I'm also currently doing writing for tabletop role-playing games, which has been a huge change from regular tabletop board games. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk a little bit about what Kickstarter is, then talk specifically about games at Kickstarter, including how to launch a successful campaign. I'm going to try to get through all of this fairly quickly, as I found the most important thing for people like you all is the Q&A, and I want to get to your questions. I hope that we're able to share some of the questions. As I said, we had some technical difficulty yesterday during the actual class, so I hope that we do have some of those Q&As that we can share with you all. Kickstarter began in 2009, so this year we are celebrating our 15-year anniversary, which has been pretty incredible. Here's a cool little scissor reel of some of the coolest campaigns that we've had. What you need to know is that here at Kickstarter, we have something called the all or nothing funding model. This is because we believe in you and your vision and that you can make it. We also feel that what you set as your funding goal should be what you need in order to make your product. So anything less than that wouldn't set you up for success. We especially, I think every department feels that way, but in games, it's really crucial because if you're making a tabletop game, any kind of physical tabletop game, you really need that money to manufacture your product. So we really encourage people to be very accurate with that goal. Reward crowdfunding is self-explanatory. You give people rewards for being funded. Creative charter. Kickstarter is a PBC, which stands for Public Benefit Charter, which lets us focus on this mission of helping you bring your projects to life. And you can read about more of that in the link provided. Creative outcome is also what it sounds like. All projects must have a creative outcome, meaning you're making something creative to share with the world. Here's the Kickstarter breakdown by the numbers, and it's frankly pretty amazing. We have over 255,000 projects funded. There's been over $8 billion pledged and over 23 million backers. So now we're going to talk specifically about games on Kickstarter. We've had over 43,500 successful games project and over $2.6 billion pledged to successful projects. And this is one of the big ones. This is Elden Ring, the board game. It's got some pretty rad minis in it. The benefits of Kickstarter to designers are pretty good. You can connect directly. This means there's no middleman between you and your audience. You are bringing your game directly to your fans. Reduce barriers and take risks also ties in with that. You're making it easier for your audience to connect directly with you, but there's more risk because you're doing all of the work yourself. This also gives you a chance to test your ideas and to give you a lot of creative independence that you might not have with a publisher. And it also opens the process of making, gives you a chance to follow your vision as you see it. I also want to add in here that a lot of companies bring their product to Kickstarter to see if it's what the market wants. So they sort of do their initial test run at Kickstarter to see if the audience is there and what kind of audience they have. Now I'd like to show you some of my favorite campaigns. Julie, the creator of I Am Elemental, an action figure for girls, was repeatedly turned down by the toy industry before making $162,906 from 2,520 backers. Bear Mountain raised over $750,000 from over 8,000 backers. This campaign page is really beautiful. I highly recommend checking it out. Crown of Ash is so incredible. I love the look of this game. This is a situation where this game popped up in my recommended ads on social media, and it just, the color palette pulled me in. I love the little meeples. I love all the cards. I love the artwork, and it just, this was an insta-back for me. It's everything that I really love to see in a game. Fit to Print is a page that I love to recommend to creators. I also just want to quickly acknowledge that I know that a lot of the creators that I'm showing clearly have graphic designers and illustrators, and they have professional videographers. And so not everybody's pages can look this beautiful, but I still recommend checking them out for at least their page layouts. This is the team that brought you Calico, Cascadia, and Verdant. So obviously they know what they're doing. One of the things I love about their page is that they've taken quotations from reviewers, and they have sort of peppered those quotes throughout the page, and they've kept it in their graphic design. So it sort of breaks up all the regular things on the page with little, frankly, delightful little sentences about the game. So I really love how they do that, and I encourage people to do that as well. Townsfolk Tussle, this is for their expansion and their reprint. This raised over $1 million from almost 9,000 backers. And this game, the artwork is out of this world. I highly recommend checking out this page. This page is so gorgeous. Shadow Dark RPG. I wanted to add in a few tabletop RPGs, and this is absolutely one of my favorites. She had a wonderful community before she came to Kickstarter, and they really showed up. She made over $1.3 million from over 13,000 backers, and the product is gorgeous. This is one of my personal favorites. This is Mothership. I have played this game and it scares the crap out of me. It is wonderful. They made almost $1.5 million with almost 16,000 backers. And Mothership and Shadow Dark, and there are several other like it. There's several other RPGs that also they offer licensing. So if you wanted to, make anything in this world, you could license it from the creator. And many of those are on Kickstarter. And the reason I know that about Mothership is because I own many of them. There's also some incredible video games on the platform as well. Micah and the Witch's Mountain made over 1.3 million euros from over 24,000 backers. They also had some physical versions of the game. And I mean, the artwork is just stunning. Now let's talk about campaign basics. First is to define your idea and identify your audience. What are you making? Is it a family-friendly board game? Is it an adult RPG? Is it a set of dice? Whatever it is, flesh out that idea and figure out who wants that product. Then work out how you're going to make it and how much it costs. Manufacturing is a huge part of making a physical game of any kind, and you need to know all of those costs in advance. For digital items, how much does the labor cost? How much is the art? These are all important factors. Third, start to connect with that audience and share your work. We usually recommend a minimum of 3 months before launch, but with games, I would advise an even longer runway. For my first game on Kickstarter, we made the game in August of 2013 and launched it on Kickstarter in March of 2015, bringing it to a ton of conventions in between. Especially with games, it's also important. I recommend this also for development reasons. It's really important to go to events and to see how people are playing your game, see how people are interacting with your game. That will also help you figure out who your audience is. Fourth, you'll need to build your campaign page, film your video, and get approval through Kickstarter. It's important to make the best campaign page possible. The approval process takes a few business days, so be sure to give yourself enough room for that. And honestly, it's always important to sort of pad your time. Things always take longer than you think. Your video might take longer than you think. Building your page might take longer than you think. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time. Number 5 is to pre-launch on either Kickstarter or your own site, which we recommend a minimum of 1 month for, though again, you can do it however far in advance you want. If you are planning to make more than one game or make more than one item, if this is sort of the way that you're launching your business, as much as I absolutely think that getting that pre-launch page up is important and getting that notify me button press is important. If you want to collect emails, you can't do that through Kickstarter. Anybody who follows your campaign, you're not going to get those email addresses. So if you want to set up a separate landing page so you can collect email addresses, that is also very acceptable. And that way you can collect all those email addresses, then you can let them know when the pre-launch page is up, or you can let them know when the page is live. For number 6, there's your actual launch, which is usually 30 days, but can run longer or shorter depending on your preference. But it's not over once the campaign is over. Number 7 is your post-campaign funding and fulfillment, where you get your item made and send it out to backers. I also want to mention that that's not where outreach finishes their support either. Even when your campaign is done, you're doing your fulfillment, we're here for you. Many people on the outreach team have made their own products in their categories, so we know a lot of the ins and outs of all these things. So if you need any help, we're here for you. I also kind of joke and kind of don't joke that we're also here for emotional support. I mean, we've been there. A lot of us have run our own Kickstarter campaigns, so we know how grueling it can be, and we're here if you just need to vent. The 3 main elements of a successful campaign are your fulfillment plan, telling your story, and building your community, which I'm going to go into more detail in the following slides. First, I want to talk about building your page, which can be intimidating. You have to make an account and build your basic draft, but before you do even that, you have to put in your bank account and other details. So be sure to give yourself enough time for all those items to get approved as well, not just through Kickstarter, but also through our payment processor, Stripe. So again, this is me telling you to be sure to pad your time. About 40% of your preparation time will be the basic draft and the project review, which can take 3 to 6 business days. The other 60% is creating your pre-launch page, finalizing your draft, and launching the project. In the draft phase, you're also able to share links with other people so they can give you feedback, which can be crucial in finishing up your page. I highly recommend sharing your page with other people. This is a great way to get feedback. It's a great way to get just another set of eyes on it. Sometimes you've been looking at something so long, you miss obvious things, and it can just be, somebody who works on lots of campaigns might just say, oh, you should have this above this, or you should delete this entirely, or hey, it would be great if there's an image here. So it's good to get some outside feedback. Now we'll talk about creating a fulfillment plan. Your fulfillment information is what's going to determine your overall funding goal. If you're making a physical product like a tabletop game, you'll need to know exactly how much that game is going to cost in order to figure out how much money you need to print it. This involves getting quotes from manufacturers and also figuring out how much your shipping costs will be. I always recommend including that in your campaign page as an estimated shipping table that you charge later, letting people know about how much it should cost once you charge shipping. I would definitely check out those campaigns that I suggested earlier as well. A lot of those have estimated shipping tables, and they're great examples of how you should plan yours out. This also allows you to predict realistic delivery times, as manufacturers will also let you know how long it will take to print. Again, it's always a good idea to pad those times. That way, if anything at all goes wrong, you're erring on the side of caution. We've seen some unprecedented, wildly outlandish things happen over the last couple of years. We've had, shipping issues, we've had manufacturing problems, we've had shortages in cardboard. So you just want to make sure that you're keeping in mind that things might go wrong. It's also important to remember that you need to figure out your shipping costs, and those shipping costs also include, buying boxes, buying envelopes, making sure that you have all the things that you need in order to pack your games and ship them. So remember to add that to your goal as well. Now let's talk about how to tell your story. The campaign page and project video will be about your creative endeavor, but they should also be about you. Backers want to see that you're a real person, and adding in personal stories about yourself and how you made your project are important to your campaign. I always recommend at least having a team section where you can talk about yourself and your team if you have one. Figuring out your reward levels is also important and very personal. Finally, updates should be engaging your backers and encouraging them to interact with you. My favorite updates are the ones where the creators asking me a question. If they're unveiling something, I always enjoy it when they ask for backer input on what they want to see next. That's also important because backers love to be involved. They love to feel like they're part of the project. So it's really important to figure out how to make them feel like they're engaged and like they're special. Your main image should always include the name of your game, and it should be as clear as possible. We always recommend that you don't clutter it up with icons or badges. Make sure it shows what your campaign is about at a glance. The same goes for your headline. It should clearly tell what your campaign is. As I mentioned before, your team is an important part, and so is the development process. I would keep some of the development process for updates, so that way if you're having a slow week, you have something to update your backers on that keeps them engaged. I've also gotten some feedback recently from creators that they've found that keeping a lot of the early process, so a lot of your early prototypes and stuff like that, you should keep that for the updates, because if anybody's scrolling through your campaign page and they see sketches or they see, early versions, they might misconstrue that and think that that's what the game looks like now, and they might think that you're not as far along as they hoped you were. So keeping that stuff for the updates can be important because it keeps that separate from your final product, and it also gives your backers who are already invested some extra look at behind the scenes, which they really enjoy. Here's a great image from a lovely campaign called Loftia, which shows a very clear headline, very clear image. They do have the little final 24 hours badge up there, but that's okay. Your headline and your main image are crucial to get right, as not only is it the first thing people see when they're browsing through Kickstarter, it's also what we use if it gets chosen for one of our newsletters. So if we pick it for our new and trending newsletter or our Project We Love newsletter, we're just gonna grab your cover image and we're gonna grab your headline to make sure that those are as clear as possible. Here's a pretty cool game. It's called Dracula's Curse. I really love the artwork and aesthetic of this game. Remember, Kickstarter is a visual platform. Start with a concise overview of the product, prioritize the key information into sections, don't forget to use headers, and use great images, videos, and GIFs throughout. Show the design process. We talked about this a little bit before. This is the 4th prototype of my first game, Resistor, and it's a far cry from the final product. I had a great time photographing all of the old prototypes and seeing the progress my game had made, and so did our fans. They really enjoyed it. I highly recommend tracking this and sharing it for yourself and for the people who love your game. I forgot to remove the little lorem ipsum from the bottom. Sorry about that. Showcase your team, even if it's just you and a few collaborators. Backers are interested to know more about you and your work. It helps them understand your experience, and if you've delivered a project like this before, it's also nice to connect with you and see how much you love and believe in what you've created. It also helps people see that they can do it too. A lot of backers become creators. I was a backer before I was a creator, and it was really inspirational to me to see that they were just people, just like me, just like you. For your video, try to keep it within 2 to 3 minutes and be sure to showcase your work up front. If you're comfortable, you can also show yourselves, but that's not integral. This is my very favorite video that I've ever seen. It's for the campaign, The Time Scout's Handbook, a publishing project about a scout book for time travelers. The video is a sheer delight, and while I know everyone can't have this level of professional quality, I just love sharing it. I often joke that I wonder if this actor is the cousin of someone on the team, or if they literally just paid him to do this, but it's very, very funny. I love it very much. I also had a creator ask me, they were really stumped with what they should do, and I told them to check Cameo and maybe just hire someone, and so they hired Tommy Chong to do their video, which was hilarious. This one's pretty self-explanatory. $25 is the most common pledge. 5 to 7 is the ideal number of tiers, and $100 is the tier that generates the most money. I've tossed in an image from my second game, Laser Riders, just for fun. This is my favorite character from the game. Some ideas for rewards include acknowledgements, whether that be in the credits, the rulebook, or your website. The product itself, a memento, so maybe an enamel pin, a keychain, or a shirt, or an experience like the chance to play your game with the backer, either in person or online. Think about what you want to create and how you want to share that with the world. But also keep in mind with mementos, those can be very difficult. If you don't have a t-shirt person or somebody that making stickers, it can be a real hassle to try to make those things yourself. And you also have to keep in mind that those shipping costs are going to be different than shipping the game. So just make sure that you have all those manufacturing costs in place before you run your campaign. Now we'll talk about finding your backers. Your backers are going to get you to your funding goal, so you have to find that audience before you launch. We're going to talk about each of these items individually on the following slides. Here's an image. It says pre-launch community. The person in the middle is Courtney Warren, who's, I forget what her title is. I'm so sorry. And the person on the right is Everett Taylor, our CEO. And now I feel terrible that I've forgotten Courtney's. I'm going to look it up because I feel bad. VIP of brand marketing. She's amazing. It's important to build your pre-launch community, and I found in the games category, one of the best ways to do that is to go to events where your potential backers are. If that's board games, you can go to events like Gen Con, PAX Unplugged, or Essen. If it's video games, you can go to events like PAX East, PAX West, or Indiecade. For toys, puzzles, and other game-related products, it's important to find that audience with some research. Are you making anime standees? Then you might want to go to Otakon or Katsucon. If you're making dice or vinyl toys, you might want to check out San Diego Comic-Con. There are tons of places to find your audience, but it's important to figure out where they are. And it's also important, depending on where you live in the country, if you can't travel very far, there are tons of events that are local to where you live or somewhere within, the area. And there's also online events that you can go to as well. All that being said, 60 to 70% of your backers will come from your network or your outreach efforts. You should aim to reach 20 to 30% of your goal in the first 48 hours, which will likely be from those efforts. Email is a great tool. You should be collecting email addresses even before you have a project page, especially if you intend to make more than one game. There's an 82% success rate of projects with at least 25 people backing it, which is a reachable goal and will help you build momentum. Spend time working out who these 25 people are and how you'll connect with each of them. These folks might also share your project with their networks. Be sure to keep your emails and updates personal to keep those people engaged. The Kickstarter community is also important, and finding your place there is another piece of the puzzle. Figure out which category you want to launch in, and if you know other creators launching when you are, offer to cross-promote each other in your updates. If you can get the community to notice your project, you'll be well on your way to success. I also want to mention, you can change categories during your campaign. So if you have created a comic, and then you've created a tabletop game based on that comic, it might be good for you to launch in tabletop games, but then spend a week or two in comics or spend a week in publishing and then switch back to tabletop games. That way it gives those other crowds a chance to also see your campaign. Speak to press and influencers as well. There are groups on Facebook dedicated to just that. Offer prototypes of your game, links to play your tabletop game online, or demo copies of your video game that they can play online. If you have an expensive board game prototype, having it up on Tabletopia or Board Game Arena can be very cost effective, and then you can also play it with them so you can show them how it works. You can also offer to do interviews about your process, something that board game fans are very interested in, especially if they want to make games themselves. And finally, ads and paid media are an integral part of finding your audience. You can learn how to run ads, or you can hire an agency to run them for you. Be sure to factor those costs into your funding goals as well. This is something that has definitely changed over the last decade. When I ran my first campaign, I think paid $100 to run an ad on Board Game Geek. And now it's pretty normal for people to hire ad agencies to run ads or to run ads themselves. So definitely factor that into your costs. Thank you so much for your time. I love being able to connect with creators. Hopefully we'll have some of the Q&A after this, but if not, please feel free to contact the games team. We are at games@kickstarter.com, and there are 3 of us, and we would be happy to help you. Thank you so much for everything.